Good afternoon, and welcome to the Next 100 Years Challenge webinar. This is the how-to webinar for how to register for our program. Next slide, please. I'm Andy Copeland. I'm President and CEO of the Greater New Orleans Foundation. Next slide. And we are thrilled to have you today. If you've been part of any of our prior technical assistance webinars, my next few minutes will be familiar to you. We are grateful for your time and interest, your commitment to our region. We are grateful for your dedication to ensuring that we are collectively working to build a more resilient Southeast Louisiana and a more sustainable one for future generations. And so thank you for your service to our community and to our region. Next slide. So here we are for the Next 100 Years Challenge, and we created the challenge as our way of celebrating the centennial anniversary, the 100th anniversary of the Greater New Orleans Foundation. We were begun in 1923 and have been leading philanthropic efforts in our region for now 100 years, going strong. And to celebrate this anniversary, we asked ourselves, what can we do in the next 5 or 10 years that will help strengthen our region and our position in this region for the next 100 years. And so the Next 100 Years Challenge competition is the answer to one of those questions. So thank you for being here again. Next slide. So our goal is to help parishes around Southeast Louisiana, the 13 parishes that we serve, to help secure federal funding for the development of resilient infrastructure to strengthen our communities. There's a lot of federal money available through the Infrastructure Act, through the Inflation Reduction Act. One such program, the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities program last year, had $2 billion of competitive money available, and we didn't have a successful application for that competitive national pool from Louisiana. And so that is just one source of federal funding that we need to make sure Louisiana is well positioned, particularly Southeast Louisiana, is well positioned to secure. And so we want to work with you all from nonprofits, from local governments, from political subdivisions to help make sure we can produce some great applications so we can get that funding. Next slide. And again, we're going to offer $1 million in total prize money. That's 10 $100,000 awards for those organizations that have the best ideas that are most likely to be able to secure competitive federal funding to build a strong, resilient infrastructure for our communities. Our goal is to turn that $1 million into 10, 20, 30, $50 million worth of projects for our region. So we're bringing the federal money home, we're creating the jobs, and most importantly, we're creating the resilient infrastructure for the Greater New Orleans region. Next slide. So what can you expect today? This is the pre-registration deadline webinar. We'll have one more for those who have registered to worry about what they need to know to make sure that they can submit their application timely. But this is really a how to get yourself registered and other questions that you might have. It's recorded, so for those people who are reading this, who are viewing this later, that's why we're recording it, to make sure that regardless of what time that you're watching your Zoom, your GoToWebinar in this case, you can get all the information about the Next 100 Years Challenge. And we're here to answer your questions and walk through that registration process today. Next slide. And again, thank you very much for joining us. It's my privilege to turn the webinar over to our colleague from Carrot.net, Christabel Villena. Christabel is our expert in this. Carrot.net has done competitions for community foundations all across the country, the Arizona Water Challenge. They've done them for national foundations like the MacArthur Foundation, and they've done them for government agencies. And so they are experts in running competitions. They've helped us design it, and Christabel will take the lead in walking you through the how-to for today's webinar. So thanks again so much for your interest, your commitment to our region, and your attendance on this webinar. Christabel, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Andy. And thank you to everyone for joining today's webinar for the Next 100 Years Challenge. As Andy mentioned, my name is Christabel Villena, and I'm with Carrot. So we are the agency that is supporting the Greater New Orleans Foundation with the design, development, and management of this initiative. CARET also powers a website and a platform that you all are using to register and apply for the challenge. So as mentioned, this webinar is being recorded. It will be available on the news and updates page and the resources page of the challenge website in the next week. We'll also email it out to those who have registered for the challenge. So we reserved most of our time today for your questions. I'll do a quick walkthrough of the challenge website with my colleague, Ethan Matthews. Then my colleague, Talia Gibbous, will help open it up for your questions with support from the team at the Greater New Orleans Foundation. As questions come up, please type them into the questions box, and we'll answer as many as we can within our allotted time today. Before we move on, there's some very important dates to keep in mind. The deadline to register for the next 100 Years Challenge is just under 3 weeks away on Tuesday, June 20th at 5 p.m. Central Time. Please note that you are required to register in order to submit an application. We're also planning an additional pre-application webinar on Tuesday, June 27th at 3:30 p.m. Central Time. The sign-up link for that session will be shared with all registered participants shortly after the registration deadline. If you have questions or in need of any technical support after today's session, you can always reach us at questions@next100yearschallenge.org. Now let's walk through the website together and review the process to participate. An easy first step to help prepare you for this opportunity is the readiness tool, which you can access from the main drop-down menu. You select application process, then readiness. This quiz walks you through some questions to help determine fit and identify technical assistance opportunities that you may need to strengthen your proposal for this challenge. If you answer yes to each question in the readiness quiz and feel that your organization is a strong fit, then we encourage you to complete registration as soon as possible if you have not already. Again, registration is required for you to be able to submit an application, and it's very simple. You'll go to the upper right-hand corner of any page on the website and click on the button that counts down the number of days to register. You'll then be instructed to create and confirm your account, and afterward you'll be prompted to submit some basic information about your organization so that we can better understand our registrant community. And please note you won't receive an email confirmation. If you're able to access the online application and the forums on the platform, then you've registered properly for the competition. Now a quick orientation of the Next 100 Years Challenge website. Like all of CARET's challenges, the Next 100 Years Challenge is rooted in the values of openness, transparency, and fairness. We want to make sure that everyone who registers and applies for this opportunity knows exactly what we expect from them, when and how they are going to be scored, and who will be evaluating their application. This website is built as an instructional guide to understanding that process. A good place to start is the Next 100 Years Challenge application. The full text of the application is available for any visitor to the site. You can see all the questions, prompts, requirements, and word count limits. You'll see that the application has several sections. You're encouraged to read all of them so that you have a good grasp of what is required to submit a full application. Once you've done that, you'll have a strong sense of what you need to apply. Another very important aspect of this website is the resources section. Here you'll find recordings of webinars, tools to help identify and collect information on underserved populations, and other helpful resources and opportunities for funding. Next, many people ask about how applications will be evaluated. On this website, you can see the scoring rubric that will be used during the review process to score and comment on submissions. The 4 criteria are impact, equity, alignment, and feasibility. Each trait consists of a prompt that details what each of those traits mean in this context, and then each trait will also be given a score between 0 and 5. You can toggle back and forth between the scoring range definitions for any given trait. You'll see further detail on how we define a low versus a high scoring application. We encourage you to familiarize yourself with each criteria to build a strong proposal. And this brings us to the actual scoring process. So following the application deadline, our team will conduct administrative review to check each submission for compliance with the rules and requirements of the Next 100 Years Challenge. All eligible submissions will then move forward to the evaluation panel. You can see the list of confirmed expert review panel members on our website. And not only will you receive scores on your application from 5 of these individuals, but you'll also get feedback. Evaluation panel judges will be required to provide comments to justify their scores and note their overall impression of each application. We often find that this feedback received by the judges is one of the most important aspects of participating in one of our challenges. And that even if you're not selected as a winner, you walk away with valuable feedback that you can then use to refine your solutions and seek other funding or expanded support. This brings us to another common question we receive: how do we ensure the process is fair? To address this, we have a web page dedicated specifically to explaining how we normalize scores. I mentioned every valid application will be scored by 5 members of our evaluation panel. This means that not every judge will look at every application, but to make sure that you're not disadvantaged if by chance you were assigned to a hard grader and another applicant was reviewed by someone who tended to be a little more lenient, we normalize scores and adjust for that. So please review this page on our website to learn more about the rescaling and normalization process. A couple other features on this website I'd like to point out. First would be the rules page. So here you can read about the legal stipulations governing your participation. You can find eligibility criteria, geographic requirements, prohibited use of funds, a sample award agreement, and other details. And then finally, we have that timeline page that details each phase of the challenge. Well, we start with technical assistance that's provided by the Greater New Orleans Foundation team to help strengthen your proposals. And again, if you haven't done so already, please do register as soon as possible. Registration is required and must be completed by Tuesday, June 20th at 5 p.m. Central Time. Once you register, you'll have access to the application platform where you can enter your responses. And then the submission deadline is Tuesday, July 18th at 5 p.m. Central Time. And then timeline goes on to list all other key dates related to the challenge. And as mentioned before, other helpful areas include news and updates and frequently asked questions. Our team will continue to provide updates to those sections and the resources page throughout this competition process. Please do check back. We encourage you to read over all the website to help support your development of a strong application. And now let's move on to the Q&A portion of the webinar. Please do add your questions to the questions box and we'll get to as many as we can today. Please do note that we aren't able to provide guidance that's very specific to your proposed idea at this time. For more specialized guidance, please register for the challenge if you haven't done so already and reach out to questions@next100yearschallenge.org. All right, let's get started. I'll let Talia take it from here.
Thanks, Christabel. Welcome, everybody. Our first question is, who is eligible to participate and can we have partners?
Yes, absolutely. Partnerships are a requirement of the Next 100 Years Challenge. A team may consist of 1 or more organizations and must show evidence of bona fide government nonprofit partnership and authentic engagement with the end beneficiaries of the project-based proposal. Teams must include 1 or more partners who are both located in the benefiting community and in 1 or more of the 13 eligible parishes in Southeast Louisiana, and who show an authentic understanding of local needs and future conditions. We ask that each team identify a lead organization. This will be the recognized agency that's responsible for the execution of any proposed project activities associated with the $100,000 award. And then applicants located within the U.S. and its territories are eligible to apply as the lead. Please also note that while individuals, entities outside of the U.S. and for-profit companies are not eligible to apply as the lead, they may serve as partners on an application. So if you go to the rules, and see sections 1 and 2, you'll get a full list of eligibility and ineligibility requirements for lead organizations.
Great, thank you. The next question is, could you please remind me the process to get help and support on my application?
Yes. So with this competition, the Greater New Orleans Foundation is pleased to support teams through technical assistance and guidance as they work on their proposals. Again, visit resources to watch recordings of our past webinars, to access links to helpful tools and websites. And an added bonus, those who register for the Next 100 Years Challenge will get access to individualized one-on-one technical assistance and support. And as always, you can email us at questions@next100yearschallenge.org for any requests for technical support or questions.
Thank you. The next question is, could I submit more than one application?
So for each lead organization, we do ask that you submit only one application. An organization can also serve as a partner on a team for other applications as long as each of those applications propose a separate and distinct solution. So the goal here is that each main project is submitted only once. And so we leave it up to each team to designate their eligible lead organization. For government entities or larger organizations with regional location-specific branches, or colleges and universities that have specific, departments and schools and nonprofits within that college or university, you can each register and submit separately as a lead organization on an application. Again, as long as the proposed solutions are separate and distinct. We understand that some teams will need the government partner to act as the lead for more than one application. So in these cases, we do ask that you register separately with a unique email. And then when listing the government entity as the lead org, include something in the name like a community partner name or the government department to help distinguish it from others that are submitted by that same government entity. And while we recommend no overlap in team members, we understand this may not be avoided with smaller parishes. So really the intent of this rule is to help ensure that each team is concentrating their best efforts into a single application that speaks best to the scoring rubric. Also, just another reminder that organizations can serve as a partner for as many applications as needed. But again, the goal is to have applications focused on separate and distinct solutions.
Great, thank you. Are there any restrictions on how award funds can be used?
We trust that applicants will use funds as they need to strengthen their solution. So there are no specific requirements on things like indirect or in general operating costs. That said, award funds must be used for the project proposed in the application and may be distributed to partners for project-related purposes. The list of how funds can and cannot be used are in the rules if you see section 5.
What types of projects are you looking for?
As mentioned, the Next 100 Years Challenge seeks innovative ideas from teams and will offer support and technical assistance to develop clear, actionable plans to help increase opportunities to secure funding and resources needed to deliver results. So strong proposals will present sustainable, community-centered, cost-effective projects that protect against and reduce the risks from disasters and natural hazards in underserved, disadvantaged communities. The priority is for communities located in the 13 eligible parishes in the Southeast Louisiana. And we encourage infrastructure plans at varying stages of development, from early stage concepts to solutions that are proven effective. And again, the Next 100 Years Challenge encourages community-centered, cost-effective projects. So do make sure you visit the About page and the rules for more information.
Great, thank you. The next question is, how will applications be evaluated?
Yes, so as mentioned, the judges will measure success by how well teams can use this exercise, develop plans, and create high-quality proposals that address local needs, but also increase the potential for teams to secure other sources of funds, especially from state and federal resources. So the scoring rubric helps to define what the strongest proposals will demonstrate. We have impact, equity, alignment, and feasibility. For impact, that includes, a powerful vision, valuable model that will protect against disasters and build stronger communities throughout Southeast Louisiana for generations to come. For equity, we're looking at a deeply rooted understanding of needs with fair and just community ownership. We want to see engagement in bringing communities and key stakeholders together to create widespread, lasting change. Under alignment, evidence-based adaptable solutions will score high, especially if they're ready to be integrated into existing efforts or to bolster existing efforts. And then for feasibility, a comprehensive plan that's designed to address risk and break down barriers, features an accomplished team of leaders with a strong track record and valuable partners.
Thank you. The next question is, how official does our government relationship need to be, and what evidence do you need to see of it?
So at this application stage, we're not asking for written evidence of partnership or relationship. Proof of partnership like an MOU may be required from those who move on to later stages of the competition. If you have like a letter of commitment, you are welcome to include that as part of your project visual PDF that you upload as part of the application, but again, it's not required. It does help to show this evidence. A partnership like that will strengthen the application. So you could, based on the scoring rubric, score higher. So if you are able to include that, please do.
Thank you. Next question. There are federal funding opportunities that have been announced but not specified, or have not even been announced yet. We feel very confident that there will be new federal funding for projects like mine coming soon, even if we can't point to it just yet. How specific do we need to be about the grant opportunities we want to pursue?
So we ask applicants to be as specific as possible based on information that you have available. In a case like this, explain what makes you very confident that this federal funding will be available, and how you are tracking federal funding to ensure that you will recognize a specific opportunity as soon as it arises.
Next question. Interested in how to direct resources to homeowners in receiving communities for green infrastructure, storm hardening, and energy performance upgrades.
Yes, so the Next 100 Years Challenge is designed to help teams apply for and win state and federal funding to increase resilience in our region. If there are state and or federal programs that are targeting, that you are targeting for funding that will be directed to homeowners to build resilience on their property, the Next 100 Years Challenge may be a good fit. In the application, you'll be asked to describe the state or federal program that will support resilience in the region, and how the $100,000 award from the Next 100 Years Challenge will help you successfully apply for and win funds from that program.
Thank you. Next question. The application is a bit cumbersome for smaller organizations. Do you have any support for them?
Yes, absolutely. As mentioned, our team understands that there is a range of technical assistance and support that is essential for organizations that they may need, and that they may not have the resources or capacity to participate. We do expect proposals submitted for this challenge to be at varying stages, and are here to work with you to address areas of improvement, to explore partnerships, and fill any gaps. So we did hold a series of webinars in April and May. All of the recordings and materials are on the resources page of the website. And as mentioned, there are other tools there to help identify and collect information on underserved populations, parish plans, toolkits, and other tools that will be helpful. And then again, individualized assistance will also be offered to teams who have registered for the Next 100 Years Challenge. So again, if you haven't done so already, please go ahead and register, and then reach out to questions at next100yearschallenge.org, and we'll get back to you.
Thank you. Next question, is the readiness quiz scored?
Oh, no. The readiness quiz is not scored. It's anonymous. It really is just a tool for applicants and visitors to the website. to help identify any technical support and assistant needs they may have. So it's not required. It will not impact, any of the scoring or evaluation processes. It really is just a tool for you all to use.
Thank you. Next question. During the application process, can we save the current application status and come back to it at a later day and time?
Yes. So on the platform, once you start your application, it saves automatically. So you can go ahead and log off, log back on, and continue work on your application up until the submission deadline.
Thank you. Next question. Could you advise how many participants are currently in this webinar?
Yes. There are currently 26 participants in the webinar, and the recording will be made available publicly for all of those who could not make it. So on that resources page and then on the news and updates, we'll have it available on this public-facing website. When you log onto the platform, we'll also have it posted in the forums, and then we'll also email it out to everyone that's registered for the competition.
Thank you. That is the end of the questions we have received so far. If you have any more, please enter them in the questions box.
Thank you, Talia. I will hold a bit in case more do come in. And in the meantime, please do save the date for our second Q&A webinar. It'll be hosted on Tuesday, June 27th at 3:30 p.m. Central Time. This will be another opportunity where you'll have to ask questions, especially as you dive deeper into the application. So information to sign up for that webinar will be emailed to those who register for the next 100 Years Challenge. We'll also post a sign-up link in the forums on the platform.
Christabel, we did receive a request to please go over the timeline again.
Sure. So when you go to the menu, you visit the timeline page. You'll see key milestones and dates for the competition, including the deadlines, registration application, administrative review. August is when our evaluation panel judges will complete their assigned submissions. And then later in the fall, awards will be selected, winners will be notified, and we'll announce by the end of October. And as those plans firm up, we'll be sharing more details and updates.
Great. An additional question. Are there any post-submission evaluations, such as interviews prior to the award?
At this time, we do not have interviews scheduled. The Greater New Orleans Foundation does reserve the right to collect more information if they do have questions as they are making their decisions leading up to awards being selected. But at this time, nothing formal will be scheduled.
Great. Next question. Is it okay to reach out to Foundation staff to talk about the challenge and the application?
Yes, definitely. We do ask that you reach out to questions as well, just so that we can track and make sure we're all aligned and on the same page. But yes, especially once you're receiving individualized technical assistance and support, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you. Just one moment. We do have a few more coming in.
Wonderful. And again, if you have more questions that are very specific to your proposal, don't hesitate to email questions at next100yearschallenge.org. Ethan, as these questions are coming in, if you can go to the news and updates page as well. This section will be continuously updated throughout the competition process, so please do check back. Here you can find also links to the webinar recordings and then the slide decks from each of the presenters. And as we get more details on award selection and things like that, those will all be announced here.
Great, thank you, Christabel. Next question, how was the application developed by the foundation?
Oh, great question. We work closely with the Governor's Office of Homeland Security, which oversees FEMA and programs like BRIC. And we also worked with the State Office of Community Development, which runs disaster CDBG programs. We met with them a few times to understand what the key components are of those programs so that the Next 100 Years Challenge application would be a good first step to help applicants build up to those submissions.
Thank you. Just one moment. We do have at least one more coming in.
Great. And well, in the meantime, Ethan, if you can go to the FAQs page. After this webinar, based on the questions we received, we'll go through them and then we'll add the questions and answers here as well so that you have them for reference. And thank you for all your questions. We do have more time, so if you have additional, please don't hesitate to add them into the questions box.
Thanks everyone for your patience. The next question is, can you please share more examples of appropriate projects? For example, should projects be nature-based or would a disaster response organization be eligible?
Great question. So some great examples of recent projects in the region. They include the Gretna City Park that was renovated to store massive amounts of stormwater to reduce neighborhood flooding, while also providing great recreational opportunities. We have the Community Lighthouse Project, The Greater New Orleans Foundation supported this project to help build resilience hubs for disaster response. This has solar panels and batteries for frontline disaster responders like churches and community organizations. The Sankofa Wetlands Park in the Lower Ninth Ward, they are restoring habitat, improving stormwater management, and providing outdoor recreation for the neighborhood. There's also the Gentilly Resilience District in New Orleans. So these are just some of good examples mentioned. And there's also some other examples mentioned on the webinars. So when you go to the resources page and look at those materials and listen to those recordings, there are other many good examples there as well.
Thank you, Christabel. We're back to being all caught up.
All right, I will hold a moment just in case any other questions come up. But again, we are having another webinar on Tuesday, June 27th. It'll be at 3:30 p.m. Central Time. And that will be for the registrants only. So do register if you haven't done so already. The deadline to register is Tuesday, June 20th at 5 p.m. Central Time. For those of you that have registered, you can complete that registration form and always go back to it and edit, make any updates up until the submission deadline in July. Don't see any other questions coming in. Again, a recording of this webinar will be made available to registrants by email. We'll also post in forums on the platform, and we'll add it to news and updates and resources on the website. We save the date for our next webinar on Tuesday, June 27th. And then if you have more questions after this webinar, please don't hesitate to reach out to questions@next100yearschallenge.org. And with that, thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to your participation in the Next 100 Years Challenge. I'll hand things over to Isabel Barrios and Dan Faber of the Greater New Orleans Foundation team for some closing remarks.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much, Christabel and Talia and team from Carrot. Yeah, we just wanted to show up and say hi. Someone asked, is it okay to reach out to the foundation staff? Yes, and we are the folks that are here to chat with you further about your project ideas, about any questions that you might have. Again, email questions@next100yearschallenge.org. That's the way that we can make sure that all the questions are being organized. But if you want to talk through something, or dig into technical assistance, or just touch base about your project idea to make sure it seems like something that's a good, potentially a good fit, please don't hesitate to reach out to Isabel or I. I'm at dan@gnof.org. Isabel is at isabel@gnof.org. And Isabel, you have anything else to add?
No. Well, I would add that even though it seems like 20 days is a long time, it would be great if you register as soon as possible so that we know where to find you. And if you have any questions, we can respond quickly. So we're looking forward to hearing from you and to seeing you complete your registration.
Yeah, and we do have more technical assistance that is available, but really it's going to be for folks who are registered. So to Isabel's point, the sooner you register, the sooner that we can touch base about getting you the technical assistance and support that you might need to be able to put in a successful application to the Next 100 Years Challenge. And then from there, put in a successful application to secure resources from the various state and federal programs out there that will help us build the infrastructure that will ensure our communities are thriving for the next 100 years. All right, well, thanks so much, y'all. We look forward to hearing from you and appreciate everyone's time today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.